Hello, my name is Dennis, and this is a brief overview of the PrintBoost system features. I want to start our discussion by focusing on the overall appearance of your website. You can navigate directly to it by clicking on this link, which is located in the upper left corner. You can see exactly how the website appears, the one that we generate for every single print shop that uses our system. Right here, there is a comprehensive list of all the available products, and you have the ability to modify the overall look and feel of the pages,
such as, for instance, your contact details, or the general external appearance of the products.
We should try to finalize the details for a specific purchase order. For instance, we could select a book. This product is offered in 3 different types, based upon the coloring of the internal unit, and it also comes with its own set of technical parameters. We provide the answers to 3 essential questions. Is this the specific product that I was looking for? How much is the price? And when will I be able to receive it? Let's just imagine for a moment that we are going to configure a truly non-standard book, the likes of which we have not previously encountered. For example, let's say we decide to take a square-shaped book that features a high-quality matte lamination finish. And then, for instance, we will specify that it must contain exactly 160 pages. We calculate and provide 3 distinct execution algorithms right away: the economical approach, the optimal solution, and the rapid delivery method. This serves as the immediate and comprehensive answer to that common question from your clients. Is there any way we can make this cheaper or perhaps get it done faster? You simply forward them a direct link and they can independently adjust and play around with all the necessary parameters, ultimately selecting the execution option that is most convenient for their specific needs.
We can certainly go ahead and add it to
shopping baskets.
We are now ready to upload the finalized version of the design mockup.
We will automatically verify it. Here we can see that the layout is not acceptable, but we provide a detailed answer explaining exactly what is wrong with it.
So let's move on to the finalization of the design and layout. We can select
who the delivery is intended for and how the payment will be processed, which depends entirely on the specific settings of the printing house. Right here we can clearly see that we have certain problems with the layout,
but we are able to.
We must now provide a suitable designation or title for this specific order.
Leave a comment.
And we should go ahead and place this order.
We are currently viewing the complete history of all of the orders that we have placed. We can clearly see all of the orders that have been successfully completed, and we have the ability to repeat that exact same order. We can see the history of our payments. We can make modifications to our profile and then configure all the available shipping options. So we're going to transition over to the main administration panel. Well, on the very first page of the administrator dashboard, we can see the average operational load across your entire printing facility. How many orders are currently active and what specific status they are holding. The statistics regarding your regular customers and the data concerning all of your products. Are they ordered through the website or were they processed by a manager? What are the most popular products? What is the average check depending on the specific period of time that we analyze? I would like to begin the process of introducing this specific functionality by starting with the employees. You are able to configure the specific roles and permissions for your employees. You can easily add a completely new role or modify any role that currently exists, and you can clearly indicate exactly what information they are allowed to see and what specific settings they are permitted to change within the different modules of our service. Here and after we have successfully added the new employee to the database and specified the exact operational role that they are authorized to utilize, once he has logged in and gained access to our service platform, he will only be able to view the functionality that is permitted, and he will only be able to perform actions that are authorized for him. Let's move on to the products now. How do we calculate the value of these products? How do we determine the exact amount they should be priced at? We were just looking at a hardcover book together, so let's return to that specific example. There are specific settings available for this product, its overall visual appearance, and all of the necessary SEO configurations can be easily adjusted by clicking on this button. We can manage the creation of written content, textual elements, video materials, the addition or modification of visual imagery, and other related items. Furthermore, the configuration of search engine optimization parameters, including the title, description, and open graph markup, along with the adjustment of technical specifications, is also achievable within this particular administrative area. A single item might possess only one type, or several different types, exactly as shown here. We give you the capability to designate and specify precisely which module must be utilized for the calculation process and the overall visual design of this particular product. We offer printing on sheets, and depending entirely upon the specific package that you choose and which modules are currently activated and connected to your system, you will also gain access to additional options like labels provided in rolls, labels that are printed on sheets, and also various types of booklets. This is where we configure POS, how we are going to calculate the cost of this product. POS either through the utilization of a detailed technological specification card, POS, or we simply designate the price for the product based upon its specific quantity, POS, or we are going to be selling the product directly from our warehouse inventory, POS, and we are able to specify should we allow sales of these goods to go into the negative or only sell the precise amount that is currently available in our stock. The available formats for this product are configured in the section below. You can either specify the predefined standard formats that are applicable to this item, or clearly indicate if a personalized custom format is indeed available for this product, and then proceed to specify the minimum and maximum possible dimensions, as well as any standard options. Let us now proceed directly to the specific details of the calculation process. You can clearly observe that this particular product has been configured with 3 distinct variations. Now, we should switch over to the black and white configuration and take a look at exactly how the system operates. To complete the production of this item, we are required to manufacture 3 separate components. You may certainly incorporate an additional new component, should that be necessary for the project. Or alternatively, modify the existing one and clearly specify which particular algorithms might be utilized for the execution of each of these individual parts. Let's quickly and briefly go through this entire set of functionality, taking each item in sequence. This is the cover we're working with. To properly execute this design, we must calculate the precise dimensions of this particular cover. We can make use of the formula for the width and the corresponding formula for the height. For the width formula, in this particular example, we are utilizing the width of the book, multiplying that value by a factor of 2 and subsequently incorporating the thickness of the entire book block. We currently have direct access to all the necessary parameters of the book block, and in this step, we are applying the thickness of the material based entirely upon which specific material has been selected. The coefficient used to convert pages into sheets, and also how many pages are present within this particular block. Additionally, we include a few extra millimeters for the fold over. The height is adjusted in the same manner, and we also determine the exact quantity of these components required to complete this specific customer order. If we consider the internal component as a prime example, so the formulas are going to be significantly easier here for the width and the height.
But here are indicated
Page to sheet conversion rates and what are the minimum and maximum quantities.
We have the ability to alter this according to our specific needs.
And this applies to every single detail that is found here. And the algorithms for their proper execution are then configured. You can see that for the cover, there are 2 execution algorithms available depending on which one of them wins. Let's try to calculate. We see that in this particular case, this algorithm won because only it has the capacity for it. It's only with this particular material size that this cover can be accommodated. You are able to see precisely how we arrived at this calculation. These are the 3 different versions of this that we currently have available on our website. Let me show you another one of our available products. As you can clearly see, we always make sure to provide options that are economical, optimal, and fast. And depending on which of the options we are currently calculating, for the quick one, we will first determine the time. For all the other options, we will first determine the price. We can clearly see that the very first algorithm we used for creating this cover didn't quite succeed, because we had meticulously calculated all the necessary dimensions, including the precise width and the overall height. And unfortunately, not a single one of these individual components could properly fit onto the
on the paper sheet.
That is the reason we had to pass on it. We can clearly see, and then we will proceed to the next algorithm. Here we can observe that everything has successfully worked out for us. Initially, we are going to display the full price calculation, how we have gone about calculating it. Pause. There is a formula presented here, and the specific values for this formula are then substituted.
For example, the specific quantity of material required, then the associated cost per click, the overall usage of the machinery and equipment, the actual price of the raw material itself, the necessary material for the initial setup, its total production cost within this specific example, and so on. Subsequently, we have the lamination process for 14 linear meters.
Cost of material plus cost per click. The same applies to the setup. And then there's the guillotine cutting. If, for instance, we need to understand how we arrived at precisely 20 sheets, there's a show details button here, and we can demonstrate how we calculated all these specific parameters. This is how we calculated the width. This is how we calculated the height. And so we have calculated precisely how many of them can actually fit inside. Now, if we were to proceed and create some sort of a small book, the smallest. In this particular case, we can calculate its specifications.
And how much do we have right here?
Number of pages.
Let's try to make calculations.
Additionally, we observe that the circumstances here have changed for us.
The amount of material. We can see that we are already able to produce it using this specific algorithm. However, it turns out to be more costly compared to an alternative algorithm. That's why this particular one was chosen as the winner. Here you can find a special indicator or a specific mark for this. Also, we can take a look at exactly how we calculated this. Here we can see that we are able to fit 10 covers into this large piece of material.
All formulas can be modified. Here is the price formula.
The formula of time. The formula for weight. Formula of the cost price. For each process, and so on, and so for each detail. Finally, we calculate the overall assembly of this product. As you can clearly observe, there are distinct components and the precise algorithms for their proper execution. Once we have successfully manufactured all of these individual parts, we then possess a comprehensive step-by-step algorithm for the assembly of this particular product. So the crucial question arises: from what sources do we derive these specific numerical values, and by what exact method are they accurately computed? Let us now proceed directly to the library section to discover the answers.
Let's start with the equipment library.
Equipment possesses both general parameters that do not change based on the specific operating mode of the machinery, such as in this particular instance, the unprinted area. If we were to calculate, for example, flexographic printing, then there would also be additional parameters concerning reports and various other details, all depending on the specific type of equipment and any connected modules. And there are parameters that are not subject to change irrespective of the operating modes of the equipment. If we delve into the system, we can clearly see that 5 distinct operating modes have been configured for this particular equipment. Should we proceed to examine any one of these modes, we will find that specific characteristics are present. These essentially serve as a filter for the equipment's operating modes, clearly indicating how they differentiate from one another. Specifically in this particular instance, these are the sheet's length and its color depth. For this set of characteristics, cost and time parameters are specified. How much time is needed to complete this work in this mode per week. You can also add your own parameters, which can then be used in formulas. You can simply enter a parameter here, specify a value, and then this parameter can be used in any number of formulas. It will then be relevant specifically to this equipment's operating mode. You can also add a new characteristic if you haven't found it here. You can also give it a new name. You don't need to contact us to add anything, any characteristic or any parameter. Below, the price for using this equipment is indicated and how it's calculated. In this case, we see a graphic representation of the price change depending on the number of clicks. The maximum and minimum costs are clearly indicated, as well as a specific threshold beyond which the price will no longer fluctuate. Furthermore, it's possible to utilize various price ranges. For example, for a single sheet, there's one price, and for 10 sheets, for instance,
She's different. You all know this particular functionality.
It is very much available and quite convenient to use. Additionally, you can also make use of a formula by making use of various adjustable parameters. Here you can also observe some custom parameters, which I will return to a little later.
The materials tell a similar story. Identical functionality.
The format of the material is being adjusted. You need to add both the material in the format you purchase it and the format you specifically use in the equipment. So what kind of units are we talking about here? And yes, you can clearly see there is a wide variety of options available for use, whether you are looking for liters, kilograms, individual items, meters, and so on and so forth. And characteristics can also be added, or you can add your very own custom characteristics right here, whichever ones you might prefer, or simply add entirely new ones. And the same applies to the parameters. The unit cost depends on your procurement. After you've received new material into stock, if the cost price changes, it will also change here. The weight of this material, how much of it is currently available in stock, you can input the inventory balances here. What's the minimum material quantity we need in stock? If it drops below this specified minimum, we'll highlight it in color, indicating it needs to be cut or ordered, and the material thickness. You are also able to add any arbitrary number of parameters right here, and then proceed to utilize them within your formulas. This is an example of a formula. For instance, we take the materials cost and multiply it by 1.5. This means that when the materials cost changes, all prices where this material is used also change. You can also use ranges and graphically represent the price fluctuation.
Then all of it is assembled into processes.
Processes are the actual tasks that you're utilizing. It's a digitized version, a copy of your completed work. Let's take a look at a printing example. The type of work indicates where the task will be assigned for completion. Production is printing, pre-press is preparatory processes, post-press is post-press processes. Here, you can add additional time parameters that are applied to this process and also set a minimum quantity of material. What does this mean? For example, you might have calculated that you only need 2 sheets, but these are considered small orders. You can then set, for instance, 100 sheets, and if the actual quantity of material is less than 100, this default value will always be used and substituted. Then, the specific equipment that is possible to utilize for this purpose is determined. And what materials can be used. It also specifies how we will be using these materials. This is either material from stock, that's the first indication, or we process material from another process, like for example, cutting. Or we calculate the amount of material based on the quantity of material consumed in prior processes, such as lamination. And formulas are given. The formulas for calculating the cost, the quantity of material needed for setup, the quantity of material required for production, as well as weight, time, and the overall price. I will now show you a little bit of its practical functionality. Mathematical calculations are used here. Operations, you can copy a formula and then paste it somewhere else, and you also have access to standard formulas. If you've broken something here or it's not working correctly, you can always revert to the default standard formulas. This formula can be modified. You can add anything you wish to this, remove elements, round things up or down, truly do whatever you desire. And here there's access to various variables. These could be order-specific variables, such as the print run, or variables derived from other formulas. For example, the total quantity of material required, or the amount of material needed for setup, and so on. This also includes the parameters of the specific parts that need to be manufactured. The equipment's operating parameters are determined by the specific modules that are connected or any additional settings that have been configured. The same applies to the materials. Custom values and specific settings, and for example, things like bleeds or perhaps the various distances, between the labels and so forth. Now, let me quickly demonstrate a clear example for you, specifically regarding lamination.
For us, this is a post-press task. It specifies what material and what equipment are being used.
Could you please tell me what kind of material it is? We calculate the amount of material based on the previous one of the entire process, and then we take, for example, in this particular case, we take the quantity of material from the preceding process, multiply it by the height of that material, and then divide by 1000 to convert it into meters. This is the simplest formula. Of course, we also need to add a bilateral component here, if we can take and then multiply it by a parameter lamination sides, which is a new feature that we have specifically incorporated into our equipment. Let me show you. Here's our laminator, and we have the lamination sides parameter has been added. Once it's added to this equipment, it can be used in custom formulas. Here we have the number 1 or 2, and this value will be substituted depending on that. What operating mode has been chosen for the equipment? So let's move on. Let's try to either fulfill an existing order or create a new one. Let's begin by creating an order. Imagine we are a manager who is currently processing some orders for various clients. We have the option to choose either a legal entity, such as a company or a private individual. We could, for instance, take any particular product. Pause. Well, let's just go ahead and choose something quite simple.
We're going to specify the parameters.
And we are making calculations. Here you can see that we have calculated the amount of material we will need to complete this process.
At what point will it be ready?
The weight of the item, its current price, and the potential income it could generate. You also have the option to examine the full calculation logs. Additionally, the manager is provided with extra functionality, allowing them to modify the item's specifications and make it completely non-standard.
In those specific situation, let's just try to imagine that we currently do not have any laminated business cards, and we will be modifying this particular product. We are going to implement a new process.
The lamination. Of course, we have that kind of option available there. But for this demonstration, we'll show you how to create custom non-standard ones. For example, it will have a matte finish made with the use of this equipment, and we will then proceed to add it after this.
The act of cutting.
We can also choose that, for example, this business card will be black and white.
And we're modifying it.
We can also specify that it can be this business card of some non-standard size, for example, 150 millimeters.
And calculate it up.
Since we are calculating everything on a process basis,
We, as you can see, in just a second calculated how much of each type of material is needed. We need 50 sheets, and we also need 46 meters of lamination material. How much of that do we actually have right now in the warehouse? What is going to be the final cost? When will this specific order be completed and ready? What is the total profit margin that we are going to realize from this? And other similar questions. We have the ability to include this item in the shopping basket. Here, for instance, we are able to change the name of this particular item within the order.
For example.
Exactly.
We are able to proceed with the uploading of the design layout for this particular order. If we have it, we will also check it out. It would be entirely feasible to duplicate, let's say, this particular item right here. We might be able to arrange for some kind of discount for you, perhaps. We can add a comment to the technical process documentation.
And let's proceed to the processing.
We need to specify how this order will be paid based on the print shop settings and how we will deliver it also based on the print shop settings. Let's process it. And now we can clearly see that this particular order has not yet been paid. We can go to the customer's card, for example, see his order history, his discount, how much money is on his balance, why does he have that much money on his balance, his payments, and other things of that kind. We have the ability to look at all the options, specifically for this particular order. We can also assign the manager or even top up the account balance. To place your order again, review your complete order history or cancel your current order. And at this particular point, we are provided with a range of options for interacting with the specific product of the order. We can conveniently access and review all the relevant details. Here, it's clearly visible how the dimensions are set, how many items can be placed on a single sheet, what specific materials are being employed, and what kind of equipment is being utilized. It is possible to produce a printed version of this technical data sheet. And here is all the necessary information to fulfill this order. Your employee can scan the QR code, go to this order, mark some work on it, and so on. What tasks will be created to fulfill this order? This is a correspondence between the employees.
And the activity related to this particular order.
Let's put it into production. We have two ways we can start production. If the client has money on their balance, we can just pay for this order and it will automatically be processed. Or we can start this order under the manager's responsibility without payment. Now we see, what tasks have been created for the fulfillment of this order? We can imagine ourselves in the position of a prepress engineer. Let's move on to discussing the tasks. We are talking about this particular prepress engineer. And right here we have filters. And it's possible to filter the data by client or by manager, based on their status, for example, only new ones, and those that are currently in process or in progress. And we see that we have two products. Additional information is available for each of them. Correspondence and materials and the necessary parameters. After we had successfully completed one of our assigned tasks, we then proceeded to tackle another one. This particular task involved the lowering of the lanes. We will execute it. Once the fulfillment of a particular order has commenced, we can clearly observe that its status has transitioned to in process, and if we expand the details, we can then view each of these individual products separately to understand what exact stage they are currently at. After that, we will then proceed to the printing tasks. We can clearly see what exactly it is that we will need to do to print out this order, and once this particular task has been completed, we then ask him, you were supposed to have used a certain amount of material, which we calculated automatically. So how much did you actually use? We can then adjust that amount and write it off. Let's go and check the inventory. Here we can clearly see the current material availability within our warehouse, along with any reserved stock. For instance, we currently have 7 meters of lamination film that has been reserved. We can simply click right here to easily view for which specific order, exactly how much material we have reserved. And we observe the receipt and expenditure of material. And when here we see our latest write-off, we were to write off 50 sheets, but 51 were. Who did this and when? Therefore, we will always have accurate and up-to-date stock levels for all our materials in the warehouse. Let's move on. Let's get back to the actual performance. We will fulfill this order. And we will move to the post-press conference. So what you're seeing right here is our lamination. And in addition to that, we also have this particular material.
we're going to write it off.
And then our next step involves the lamination process for a different business card. And after that, we'll proceed with the precise cutting.
Here we have
Now, for packaging, we can also filter them. The packaging tasks, for example, will only select those that are new and currently in progress.
Let's imagine we've initiated the entire packaging process. Once we have successfully completed that, we will then proceed to generate a specific label for the dedicated label printer, which can subsequently be printed out.
And here, the specific details are provided regarding how we must deliver it.
And all the necessary information. Also, there is a QR code here. An employee can log in, mark the delivery of this order.
Let's do it.
And we'll deliver. As we can see,
So, code delivery is blocked because the order is unpaid. We can see all operations for this order. All of them are completed, but delivery is blocked. We see all activity, who did what and when.
Who used how much material, yes, so on, all comments regarding this order and so forth. To unblock the delivery, the manager must give their approval. Following this, it will then be possible to proceed with the execution of all the required logistics tasks. Log.
And then we hand these orders over to the client. After this, our status automatically changes and we can see all the tasks that are currently active, all the orders that we have in progress, along with their current statuses. Also from here, you can filter them. For example,
only those orders that are currently under review. We can see that we have 2 orders being monitored, including their total amount, average check, and so on. You can also generate a detailed report, export specific parameters to Excel, and perform any additional analysis if that's needed. We also display all of this information on the dashboard.
well, it all depends on the particular period that has been chosen.
How many orders were processed, where they originated from, which items were most popular, what the average check was, and so on.
So let's quickly go over the interface and all of its functionality.
We have instructions you can
To discover them, to become quite familiar with them.
If you have any additional questions or inquiries, you can always feel free to contact our customer support department, submit a detailed message, and you will promptly receive a comprehensive response from our dedicated support team members.
Print house settings. By the way, you can easily adjust the language of those or interface to one that is most comfortable and convenient for you. The various language options are available for configuration within the settings. Here, the languages for the interface and admin panel are configured. How are clients validated? For which, with which alphabet? What currency at the print shop? What's the exchange rate? And the address where it's located. Here you configure your website regarding the domain, what languages can be used on your website. As you can see here, you can also change the interface language. Next, you'll find the settings available for the active modules. Depending on your subscription plan, you can enable or disable various additional modules and then proceed to configure them. Well, for example, the Facebook pixel, we can enable and configure it on Visual Tote Pose and then specify the API key parameter for the Facebook pixel.
Or you might want to turn it off.
And right here, the delivery options are being configured depending on the specific modules that are connected. For example, the address is being configured right here.
type, cost, and so on. The contacts are the external appearance, and both the overall external appearance of your specific location as well as working hours. We use this when we're calculating exactly when your order will be ready. We've already calculated in seconds how much time we'll need to complete this specific order. Then we look at our available working hours. And in this way, we can calculate when will this order be ready. We can also slightly modify the design. For example, like this. And upload your logo and change the accent color. That's not all you can do for design changes. These are basic settings and they mostly depend on the connected modules.
Regarding the staff, we've already discussed it. As far as the website is concerned, there are static pages.
Let's make our way inside. Delivery and payment.
Here we can add video, add photos, and add a whole lot of text. And the more context you continue to add here, the more it will change and evolve. You can also include a title, a description for SEO, and then specify whether this page has been published. You can also add your own custom pages. Currently, there are 2 templates provided, and their number will be increasing. For instance, details about our equipment, or perhaps something else, anything you want to present to your client. Then, blog section, blog posts or articles. You can add any kind of relevant information. This is highly advantageous for SEO. Therefore, I would recommend that you use this at least, say, once or twice a month to ensure you're adding new content. SEO setup involves work where the title and description fields are not yet filled in for products or categories. These will then be automatically generated. And from here, it is possible to use these kinds of variables. Templates. Then these are the email forms that are sent out to your clients. For example, this is a notification regarding the status changes for your order. Additionally, there are variables available here for your use. In this way, you are able to customize the visual appearance of the electronic mail message that will be delivered to your valued customers. The CSS editor is a powerful tool that allows you to completely transform the visual appearance. For instance, if you wish to have elements with beautifully rounded corners, you simply add a new rule within your CSS and they will instantly become rounded. You can also easily adjust various spacings, change colors, or modify any other visual aspect by making the necessary changes directly in the CSS editor.
We also need to make sure that the translations are done.
You can make changes to any of the texts that are displayed directly on your very own website and also adjust its overall visual appearance. Next, library constants. I promise to show you custom variables. They're right here. You can add your own custom variable, for example, the cost of electricity, and then use it in your cost calculation formulas or for the depreciation of some equipment or for anything else. And here you will have a list of variables that you can modify in a single place, and your entire calculation will then change depending on what that specific parameter is. Here, we're dealing with standard variables that directly influence our standard calculations. For instance, how much money or time we add depends entirely on the specific calculation. Is it cheap, fast, or standard? What is the production delay? Here you can regulate the start delay for each production order. And we consider these parameters when calculating the completion date.
The minimum quantity that can be ordered, the total cost associated with your order, and the maximum allowed print run or circulation.
Here are also parameters. For stickers, for example, the minimum and maximum sizes, the standard parameters. Here we have the material characteristics. We can change the name of any parameter.
And the deeper significance is,
should you ever find the need to modify a particular name. Moving on.
formats. These are essentially the established standards for various types of formats. To avoid having to manually input the width and height separately each and every time, you have the option to either add a new standard size here or simply import an existing one.
These are the details that we have here.
For example, here, this is our book.
And right here, we have the parameters. This particular parameter is relevant to this specific detail. So well, we can either modify or add new details to make it easy for both the manager and client to understand exactly which parameters pertaining to which detail they are modifying. Next, the equipment library, I've already shown it, the materials library.
Algorithms. Algorithms are essentially a sequence of processes.
For example, here's our process. First we print, then we cut. We can use the same algorithm for many products. You know, a poster and a business card, they use similar algorithms. Roughly speaking, they only differ in size. You add one algorithm and use it for many products. If something changes for you, for example, equipment changes or new input data appears, you modify one process, and all calculations in every product where it's used are also automatically updated. I've already shown you the process library, which is where we keep all our operational procedures. Moving on, we also have a comprehensive library dedicated to our contractors, specifically for handling all subcontracted tasks and projects. And finally, we have the warehouse module, audio upon our products, different categories and items, tasks related to the production process. The balance, fundamentally, is all about money, about the constant inflow of funds. In this particular scenario, client communication is key. If they complete this specific form in the contact section, it will then immediately appear right here.
Our clients. Or is it this specific point we're discussing?
A private individual or an employee of some company.
There must be a minimum of one employee present within the company.
Here we are able to clearly observe the complete history of all placed orders.
We should keep repeating them.
All of your previously saved calculations and financial transactions.
I showed you the order. I showed you the dashboard. So this is a very brief overview of our functionality. I tried to spend as little of your time as possible. If you have any questions, please reach out to our specialists, our support service, and follow our updates. We will continue to offer new videos with detailed overviews of various functions.
Well then, it's time for me to say goodbye.